All right. Welcome, everyone. Whether you've joined us live or at some point you're landing on the replay, I'm super glad that you're here. I'm going to walk you through the Numerious Way program, why I think it's amazing, and answer any burning questions you might have before hopefully deciding to join us in the mastery tier that's going to start on April 7th. But before I get started, I just want to level set us on why I think you might be here. So, I don't know if LinkedIn has the raise your hand feature, but raise your hand if you've ever felt like you're drowning in research, but still not driving the impact that you want. Or you're running surveys, crunching numbers, maybe even presenting results, but you just know something's missing, right? And I've been there. And today I'm going to show you exactly how the Numerious Way can help you bridge that gap between having all that data and actually creating strategy of it so that you can lead with clarity and confidence within your organization. But first, let me tell you a quick story about the moment that I realized I needed to create the Numerious Way. Like many of us in marketing research, my path was not linear. With a master's in mathematics and statistics from Georgetown, I had options for jobs that crunch numbers, right? Mathematician. But instead, I actually found myself as a project manager at a place called Gongus Research, which is now a part of Human8. And there I listened to client problems. I helped shape research studies, and I learned how research truly drives business strategy, and I loved it. But at the same time, I couldn't ignore that pull that I had towards analytics, right? I got a degree in math and statistics. Maybe I should also weave that in somewhere. So eventually, I worked my way onto the marketing sciences team, where I discovered that magic of bridging the two worlds between translating business needs into rigorous methods and then translating the results that you get from those rigorous methods back into strategy. And that dual fluency, that math and the modeling, would really go on to shape my career. But it would also go on to be the catalyst for the Numerious Way because, hot topic, I think our industry is a little bit broken. First of all, too often the methods that we need to answer the business problems are locked in proprietary software that really limits accessibility and trust. Not to mention, proprietary software is extremely costly. And there's really no rubric for knowing, am I actually doing this right? Sure, you can take the trainings, read the manuals, but there's always this sort of lack of confidence, right? Anybody can push buttons in software and something will almost always come out. But if you're like me, you don't love that sort of lingering feeling in the back of your mind of, did I actually do that right? Am I sure that that's the right answer? Second, I've been lucky enough to have experience on both the client side and the vendor side. But what I found is that there's massive silos in both of these types of organizations. In traditional marketing research firms, analytics teams are often kind of separated from the account teams or the business strategy. The opposite problem exists at end clients, where you have product planners, product managers, marketing managers, even insights folks on the client side that know so much about the business, but maybe not a whole lot about the methods that they can use to answer those business questions. And yet, I think that's exactly what we all want to be able to do, right? Marketing research teams, insights teams at end clients or product planners, product managers. You want to be able to blend math with strategy. You want to be able to be confident in the method that you choose to get an answer to your business question and deliver that answer with clarity and confidence to your stakeholders. So what I see happening all the time is, product managers feel lost when they're tasked to run the research, or research teams are unsure if they've picked the right method for the business problem. And you have these brilliant people spinning in circles, burning budgets without clarity. But I'm here to tell you that it's not your fault if you're feeling these pains, if this is resonating with you, this sort of story that I'm building. No one's really teaching this stuff in a way that's practical or actionable and designed for the real world, right? That's why so many researchers, strategists, product leaders feel stuck, because just being great at analytics doesn't mean that you're driving impact. It's not just about the stats. It's about the strategy, the storytelling, and the confidence. And that's what I'm hoping to fix with the Numerious way. Now, this idea wasn't born overnight. I've been working with many of you who are on this live stream for years, and I've heard your struggles. You're all brilliant, or you wouldn't be in the positions that you're in today. But what you want is support in really just understanding, like, what is the fundamental research question that we should focus on, right? Are we trying to figure out which market to target, how consumers might respond to a new launch, which features we should add, how can we price our product? Are you trying to figure out how you can design research to address the questions and really get actionable insights on your target consumer? Or which variables that you believe are significant metrics for the business? How to even start designing a sound survey instrument, right? Especially if you're starting from scratch, or how to obtain the right sample, how to collect data, how to use panel vendors, how to clean your data and make sure there's no bots in it, right? So many lists of things that I think a lot of people would just like one place to answer all of those questions and really produce a clear, compelling marketing research report at the end of the day that supports strategic initiatives. Now, you might be thinking that, sure, Megan, that all sounds great, but how will I actually, learn all this and then implement? And that is the crux of what the Numerious way is. It's not just a training program where you're going to log in and watch videos, by yourself. It's truly a complete system designed to help you turn quantitative research into strategic business impact. So let's talk about what you'll get when you join. So the first thing is all of the trainings will be relevant to the real world and incorporate case studies. We'll teach you the exact methods and strategies that my team uses with our clients, and case studies to show proof and really get you thinking about, okay, this is how this type of business applied this method to this business problem. How can I now apply it to my business, given we have a similar business problem, even if the verticals, the consumers, the audience are completely different? Live coaching sessions. That's going to be one key differentiator, I believe, between this. You can literally ask me anything. Nothing is off the table. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but live trainings. You'll also get access to over 8 hours of on-demand video content broken up into bite-sized lessons, because that's what I like, because that's easier to fit into folks' busy schedule. There's templates that you can actually use, no more starting from scratch. And you'll also get access to a judgment-free community of peers that range from analyst level to strategist level, from end client to marketing research firm, from B2B to pharma to B2C, all over the board. Our members of the first cohort have come from and have also all had great sort of feedback from the first cohort. So you'll get support and feedback, not just from me, but also my team, and then also the community as well, which I will demo for you here in a minute. But I just want to double down on that live coaching piece, because to me, this is the piece that's like mission critical and what I think is the biggest differentiator, as I mentioned, from courses that exist today. Because let's be honest, in the age of AI, nearly anybody can make a course in a flash. You could probably go download all of my previous webinars and make a course from them. But what I think everyone is looking for is really help with implementation. And these weekly sessions are designed to be just that. As a Mastery Tier member, you'll be invited to 12 live coaching sessions with me. 6 sessions will be specific to content around our size, prioritize, optimize framework. And that will happen every Tuesday at 11 Eastern, starting April 7th. And then every Friday at 11 Eastern will be office hours. In both of the sessions, there'll be time for Q&A, but Fridays will be literally ask me anything. You can bring questions. You can bring questions related to the content that I just spoke about on Tuesday, or even questions about your specific projects or business problems or challenges. Think of it like having me on a retainer, but for a fraction of the cost. So you come with your questions, I provide answers, context, and hopefully so much more. And what I actually think is even better is, even if you don't have a question, hearing the questions your peers have and how I might answer them are still gold, right? Because at some point you might have that question, and then you can revisit the video or remember, hey, here's what Megan said about handling that sort of circumstances. I won't lie, this whole concept I actually stole from a training program that I am a part of for female CEOs. But I kid you not, while being enrolled has unlocked hours of master classes and trainings and modules, I actually prioritize going to the weekly coaching calls because I learn an exponential amount about business, marketing strategy, all of the things that I'm in that cohort for. From those live weekly coaching sessions. Like, it literally makes the subscription 1,000 times worth it. And that's also what we heard from feedback from the first cohort as well, is that those live coaching sessions are so valuable because they're interactive and it's real world problems that all of you might be having, again, regardless of stature, industry, vertical, etc. But maybe you're skeptical because perhaps you haven't worked with me before. That's okay. Let me give you a quick background. My name is Megan Pites, founder and CEO of Numerious. Probably should have started with that. But 7 years ago, I built a company from the ground up that helps solve all the problems that I've mentioned prior for our clients. These clients include massive brands like Google, Meta, JP Morgan, et cetera, as well as some incredible startups like Mill and Lightship and Supernal. And we do all of this through our full service team of unicorns who know both the math and the strategy. Shout out to my Numerious that are supporting this live stream. But this might surprise many of you. Got a great client roster, right? Megan, why don't you just grow your consulting firm? Great question. I only have 8 people on staff, and I absolutely love it because this allows me to still be in the room, solving problems with my clients while also traveling the world, speaking at conferences and leading workshops. And my truth is that Numerious will always remain a boutique firm, which means we can't serve every team that needs this combination of math and meaning. And that's really why I built the Numerious way. If I can't service everybody, I want everybody to do Quant the Numerious way, ergo the name of the community. I really think that the future of insights isn't going to belong to those who only run models or produce data. I also don't think it's going to belong to AI agents, but we can talk about that in another call. I do think it's going to belong to those who can connect rigor to relevance, who can connect math to meaning, right? And that's really our mission at Numerious, to empower smart people with the skill set to think clear, speak strategy, and really spark real business impact. And with the Numerious way, I'm able to scale that mission, right? Hopefully raising up more unicorns. Maybe you just don't work at Numerious, but you can be like a Numerious and confidently bridge analytics and action. So let's take a quick look at what the Numerious way might look like. I will stop sharing my screen and start sharing the Numerious Way landing page. Up in the top left corner, you can see a quick QR code. Should you be so excited about the Numerious Way and want to learn more and start the enrollment process, just flash up your phone and take a picture of that. But here we are on the Numerious Way landing page. So just a nice little, welcome, some practical ways of getting started, introduce yourself, check your dashboard, and some, nice little rules and things, because we're all friends in this nerdy community. There's a community discussion board where you're able to post any and everything that you want to talk about to your peers and get some answers. And then you have your 6 different DIY on-demand modules. All 6 of the modules are going to be structured in the very same way, where we have snack size videos that you can consume at your own pace. The really nice part is that when you open one of these up, you can, click play, and I'm going to mute myself so you don't hear me. But you can actually put on closed captions. You can also bump me up to 2x. I already speak pretty fast, so I'm not sure that anybody can actually bump me up to 2x, but be curious to know if you can consume it that quickly. And so we're going to walk through, this is the, what's the purpose of Quant surveys? And I'm going to, give you tools that we use internally, like how to conduct a problem audit. What do you need to be talking to your stakeholders, whether you're a marketing research team or you're within the insights at an end client, right? These are still all questions that you could ask your stakeholders and things to think about there. So we do an overview of why we conduct Quant. Then we talk about designing your surveys, the audience, which would be your sample. We talk about going live, how to actually launch a study, who panel partners to partner with. And then every section is also going to have a pop quiz. And these are latent quizzes. There's no grading. There's no sort of, you must take the pop quiz to pass the course and that sort of thing. But the way that it works is, at least in the Quant Surveys 101, we talk a lot about how to ask questions the right way. So we, pop up an example. Are you satisfied with the effectiveness and affordability of drug X? And then I ask you to pause your video and try to tell me what, if anything, do you think is wrong about how this question is stated, right? And so the problem, if you're an expert Quant survey writer, is that this question is double-barreled, right? We're asking about both effectiveness and affordability. They're separate concepts, which may yield conflicting answers. So we would really want to split those things out. So then I ask you to pause the video again and really think through, like, what could you have done instead to, relieve yourself of that double-barreled question. And then we talk about, you could ask it at 2 separate metrics: satisfaction with effectiveness, satisfaction with affordability. And we do this because separating the question allows for specific feedback without confusion. Then we move to the next one. Do you think the new pickup truck design is better than the previous models? And then we talk about, no, that's not great because it's too vague. If 80% of people said yes, and I put that number on a slide, I'm thinking, pat on the back, 80% of people think the new truck design is better. And then the marketing person in the room is going to say, that's amazing. What part of the pickup truck design is better, so that I can, really make a stink of it when I put together the next commercial? And then you just kind of sink, right? Because, oh, I didn't actually ask why they thought it was better, right? So then we would probably want to think about this. How are we going to want to use this data? And then maybe I would ask, an open-ended question around like things, or maybe I would ask more ratings-based questions, etc. So this is the Quant Survey 101 resource, Research 101 module. And then at the end, you're always going to get templates. So here we have a sample brief. So if you are in that sort of intake space where your client has a business problem, your stakeholder has a business problem, there's a sample brief doc here that you could open up, and you're not going to be able to see it because it opens up as Word, and I'm sharing my webpage, but anyway, it would walk you through, here's all the questions that you would need to ask. And then there's all of the slides in one big PDF for you as well. And so that is Quant Surveys 101. We also have Market Sizing 101. Again, we always start with the why. What's the purpose? Why would we ever need to do market sizing? An overview of the approach, weighting your data. And here, one thing to note about the entire Numerious way, there is no proprietary software that we are teaching within the Numerious way. So it's just your one-time all-in cost for access to the education and training information. You don't need to have a subscription to Qualtrics or Displayer or Sawtooth. And in this weighting your data, I actually give you our code, which is free. And we're big proponents of open source tools at Numerious. So as we continue down and building out the Numerious way and all of the content that's in here, we're going to continue to prioritize giving you access to open source code. Again, now that there's, Claude and all of these other LLMs, maybe you don't need our help with open source coding language, but nonetheless, we will teach you how to implement it and how to do it. And then we have Prioritization 101, which is effectively max diff. We have Optimization 101, which is effectively conjoint. And then we have Pricing 101, which is, your Van Westendorp, your Gabor Granger, your expected price, and a little bit about conjoint in there because conjoint is a great way to measure price sensitivity, but really helping you understand when to use each method and why. The entire Numerious way is less focused on the how, because I personally think anybody can, point and click on a software tool. So I don't think you need to necessarily know exactly how everything is done, but nonetheless, we still deep dive into, for example, Prioritization 101. We talk about design principles. We talk about the model. We talk about how you would be able to do it at a high level, but nothing super, super advanced that you're going to need to use proprietary software for. We also have all of our resources over time, a bunch of the Numerious Way webinar replays. I do have some videos that I've created for Sawtooth Software's Discover platform and how to use that. And then at any time we create new content, we add it to the Numerious Way. So as a paying member, you get access to that. And then we have the resources specific to the cohort that hopefully the folks listening on the call will join. So I'm just going to pop up the mastery tier syllabus here for a second. So you can see that the program itself is going to be 7 weeks. It's going to run from April 7th to May 22nd. As I mentioned, there's going to be live training sessions weekly on Tuesdays at 8 a.m. Pacific or 11 a.m. Eastern. And then we're going to fast follow with some office hours weekly on Fridays. The last cohort, we did 16 weeks of calls, 1 call a week. And the feedback we got there was that super great. Calls were really valuable, but it's really drawn out, which might be fine for some. But we're trying with this cohort to really make it more like a boot camp, and have you commit to these 6/7 weeks, and really be invested and try to learn as much as possible from the live sessions and the coaching calls, and then you can watch the DIY videos at your leisure. So you'll get 12 sessions with me, over 8 hours of core curriculum, access to a community, and a bunch of bonus materials and templates. You can see here our weekly call schedule and how we're planning on doing that. We're just taking 1 week off for the Sawtooth Software Conference in Berlin, the week of May 5th, but then we will finish up right before the Memorial Day holiday if you are in the US. Before I get to FAQs, let me just pop back into here really quick. So you can see we have workbooks, we have additional resources and random topics. If I pull this guy open, these were all of the things from cohort 1 that we double clicked into in one of the training sessions or one of the coaching sessions. And then each of these documents is linked to, examples. What do we mean by external effects in conjoint simulation? So if you are a more advanced researcher and you're in the community and you ask a question on external effects, I will answer it. And then for all of the novice folks, I will follow up with some context around Why would you ever even know about external effects? How does one get there? So I really try to make it for all levels of education. And make sure that you get access to everything that we get excited about. White papers on the impact of large-scale choice experiments. This is a paper that my team wrote. Things that are segmentation related. The Kurzbiner behavioral framework, which is fabulous and phenomenal if you don't already know about it yet. And so I'm going to teach you about it. There's going to be all of these great, amazing things. When would you use sparse MaxDiff versus when would you use express MaxDiff? Things very outside of a normal standard training program that you're going to have access to sort of all in one place. But I'm going to return to those FAQs really quick because I believe that there's a lot of questions in here that folks probably have. And so I'll try to address them. But if you're sitting there wondering if this is too advanced for you, maybe you're early on in your career or a little bit more junior, or maybe you are that sort of product planner, product manager, and you don't want to get bogged down in the stats. You just want to know enough to feel confident in guiding whomever your vendor is on a MaxDiff or a conjoint project. I believe that it's not going to be too advanced for you because I am trying to meet everybody where they are. So you'll learn the full project life cycle from framing the problem and then applying it practically. So you don't need to be an expert. You just need to be curious. On the opposite end, maybe you're more senior, or maybe you're super analytically savvy, and you might think that this course is too basic for you. I would argue that the course is about decision-making with data. Experienced researchers absolutely know how to run methods, but you might not feel as confident in terms of when to use which method or how to connect each of these methods to business strategy or how to explain these methods to executives. And not to toot my own horn, but I've often been told I have a way of making advanced analytics consumable. So I'm hoping to give you all of my skills in terms of taking advanced quant and rigorous analytics and turning them into strategic recommendations. I've also gotten a lot of questions around, is the content going to be relevant for me? A lot of times we see examples only in the tech space, only B2C, and a lot of trainings don't really appeal to different verticals and different industries. And I have purposefully made sure that no one will feel alienated. Twofold. One, because the content itself is not built around industries. It's really built around the core decisions that you as an organization are going to face, whether you're B2B, pharma, education, a startup, a Fortune 500, right? You all likely have the same business problems of needing to size an opportunity, of needing to understand different audiences or segments, of prioritizing what matters, of optimizing your offering, your pricing, your messaging, your positioning, right? Name me a company that doesn't have these 4 bullet points as problems. Then I guess the Numerious way doesn't apply to you, but I'm pretty darn near sure with a 99.9% confidence level that it applies to nearly every organization, whether you're B2B, whether you're pharma, like I mentioned, all across the ways. Not to mention, that being said, I showed you the slide with all of the logos, right? Like you saw that the work that we do at Numerious is across the board, startups, global 1,000 companies, B2B, B2C, pharma, education, etc. And so I'm going to pull from all of our experiences at Numerious to make sure that if you are in one of those more niche industries, I'm going to talk to what you're going to need to do to adjust for that, right? Because different industries are going to come with different constraints, like smaller sample sizes, because you just don't have the budget to spend $100,000 on sample. And I get that. So let's level set what type of business problem we're solving. If it's just a gut check, then we can run with smaller sample sizes, right? We just need to be really careful about our quotas, maybe, because we want to make sure we adjust, do the best we can on minimizing sampling error, knowing that we're going to have a little bit larger measurement error, right? But if this is a $1 billion decision for a B2B company, then I'm going to push you on maybe you do want to spend a little bit more on sample, right? So just a couple of those examples and rubrics I'm going to use throughout the entire training. So that being said, if you don't feel like the content that you've got applies to you, you are always welcome to bring your specific scenarios to the live calls, and you can get direct guidance from me on how to apply it. So bottom line, if you're trying to turn data into better decisions, this training program is relevant to you regardless of industry, consumer, etc. I already mentioned that I believe this training is very different than other quant trainings, but I would be curious to know if there are other trainings like this that exist out there. I believe the trainings that I've seen tend to teach methods in isolation, where here we're really trying to teach you holistically about the business problems. And then from there, based on the business problems, how do we choose the right method? How can you connect your results to strategy? How can you translate data into actual business impact? And throughout the entire training, we're going to talk about Mill, that super cool startup that makes amazing food recycler. If you haven't checked them out yet, you should. But we're going to talk about their entire case study of bringing their product to market. And then now that they're live and in market, now what types of research are they doing? So we're really going to hone in on a real case study from full life cycle of idea to actual go to market. I also got a question through email on what's the ROI of this training. So, okay, Megan, you've sold me, but I still have to sell the person who's going to pay for it, right? And so I've been thinking about how do I explain this? Because let's be honest, like ROI is hard to measure, even in conjoint, right? There's so many other things that could impact the likelihood of a conjoint perfectly matching market shares, which is why we say shares of preference. But there's so many other things that could impact the ROI of this training. So the first thing that's going to impact it is your commitment, right? Like if you don't commit, if you don't show up, then yeah, there's no ROI. Sorry, that's the hard truth. But let's assume you do, right? Because learning, in my opinion, is the best form of growth. So I really think everybody who is curious is going to prioritize their learning. From there, I think it's best to frame it as a business problem. Once you've gone through the training, you'll be able to help the business that you work for or are a supplier to run research that avoids building the wrong features, which can be extremely costly for an organization. It'll help you price your products more confidently instead of the CEO did one of these and now we're running at $200 a month for our AI subscription. It'll help you prioritize what actually drives demand in a list of 50 different things on the roadmap. Wouldn't it be great to know the top 5 so that you don't have to overwhelm your developers with this massive long list of things they need to accomplish? It will help you know how big your market is and who your target is, which is incredibly helpful for marketing and sales, and so much more. And in order to help the business do all of those things, what you'll learn in the training is how to frame insights in business terms, right? You have to be able to clearly and confidently, we should do. Here's how to price our product. Here are the 3 things that we should prioritize building. Here is how we can optimize to steal share from our competitor. That is what you're going to learn in the Numerious way. You're going to learn how to simplify complex outputs, how to tie it directly to decisions, how to talk product to stakeholders. And then I already mentioned in terms of, do I need expensive software to use this? No, software agnostic. What we're really focused on here is thinking, design, and interpretation behind the methods, not just how to click some buttons in a GUI, okay? But if that isn't exciting to you, I still believe, like, if you did want to learn how to click buttons, I still believe you should take this training first, because if you can learn the core principles of great quantitative research, then you'll be fine in whatever platform your company already uses, right? You'll be easily able to use open source tools because you'll know, what to Google and what to look for, or even just to better guide your vendors and your analysts, right? You don't need to do the how to click the buttons. You just need to be able to know, when I create a conjoint here, if I have more than this many attributes, I really need to start thinking about people's, non-compensatory decision making, and maybe I should use a bespoke CBC or an adaptive CBC, right? Like, you're going to start to understand the guardrails as a product planner, product manager, marketing manager of research, so that you can get good results and make clear strategic recommendations. So the goal of the Numerious way is really to understand what to do and why, and when to do each of these things, not how to use expensive tools. And then the last preemptively Q&A, and then I'll check the restream and see if anybody actually has any Q&A questions. Is, how much time is this actually going to take? What is your investment in this program? And so at a minimum, I would want you to prioritize those 2 hours of live training a week. That's 2 hours for 6 weeks. 2 times 12 is pretty simple math that I can do, or 2 times 6 is 12 is pretty simple math that I can do. So that's 12 hours over the course of 6 weeks. Seems reasonable, yeah? I would also strongly recommend that you block your calendar for 30 minutes after each hour on Tuesday and Fridays for implementation. You can just sit with your own thoughts. When do we ever do that anymore, right? We're just bouncing back and forth from meeting to meeting. So when you do choose to join the mastery tier, you can go into the, let's share this tab instead. You can go right into the live coaching sessions and office hours, and you'll see all of the sessions here. I'm going to all of them, but you can just click on it, and then you'll be able to add it to your calendar. It's a Zoom meeting. It'll be fun. Can't wait to see you there. But add all of these to your calendar, and then block that 30 minutes of time off, right? Write down what you learned. Write down a question or two from Tuesday that you want to ask on Friday. Survey your colleagues. Hey, I got an hour with Megan Pites. Is there anything that we would want to ask her about, our problems, our industries, etc. And then if and when you do have more time than those 2 hours a week, then dive into that on-demand training module content. And there's a ton in there. And I will happily guide you to where I think you want to spend some of your time. But with that being said, I believe that is all of the demo that I was going to share. One last slide that I wanted to mention, or maybe there's 2 or 3 last slides. If you don't know about me as a trainer or as a leader, there's a great recording that I did for Sawtooth back in August of last year. I think it had over 500 registrants, over 200 live attendees, and we got really great feedback around the content. You can check it out at the QR code here. That's going to take you to the recording of that presentation deck. But what I'd rather you do is join the Numerious way. So we'll flop up the QR code for the Numerious way. And if there are any folks who are still on the call, I mentioned that I would give a discount code. So the discount code is going to be available until Saturday afternoon. So you got 48 hours to use the code CURIOUS22, CURIOUS 22, and you get 22% off of the mastery tier. I have a weird thing about numbers, so feel free to ask me separately why I chose 22. But should you choose to join, you can get a discount code for 22% off for the next 48 hours. Here are just some quotes from the first cohort attendees. Absolutely worth every penny, no black boxes, and I am always eager to help with any questions you might have. I pop into the community twice a week just to make sure if anybody does have a question that they post, I'm there to answer it. And we've really put a lot of effort into the content and have made it, one, very consumable, but also very carefully crafted. It's a labor of love, and we're going to continue to build out more and more content as we go. So hopefully I've made you as excited as this Numerious Way member about conjoint, max-diff, segmentation, quant research in general, and that you will join us in the next cohort coming up April 7th. So make sure you get that discount code, 22% off, using Curious22. And I will look at the chat and see no questions in the chat yet, but I will hang out for a minute. So you can flash up or take a picture of that QR code and go to the website. It's also www.info.numerious.com/the-numerious-way. Just as a overview of some of the things that we talked about in the live coaching sessions, people didn't show up asking what is conjoint, right? They actually showed up asking more collaborative questions, like how do I push back on stakeholders when they have a long list of binary attributes? And I walked them through my process of, that's a great question, and it often happens to us at Numerious. Here is how we handle that. That's not something you're going to get in a training anywhere, in my opinion. Maybe it is, but I haven't seen it yet. And so that's going to come from these like live coaching sessions, right? Or how would you handle this business problem? Like free retainer hours. Hey, Megan, here's the business problem we have. How would we solve it with research? Answer those questions, right? We also learned a lot through real work. So if you come to the Friday office hours, they are literally ask me anythings, right? And so we supported Josh through his first adaptive CBC. We helped Chris work through some segmentation issues, some things he was seeing in the data, and was just curious like how we might handle it, if there was anything that we would do differently. We reverse engineered Starbucks new product launch. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but Starbucks launched a like protein foam. And one of the members was like, hey, how do you think Starbucks got the green light on that strategy? And so we reverse engineered it, and we literally built a conjoint grid and a max-diff list live based on the paths of research that if Starbucks were my client, I would have taken them down to decide whether or not, go, no go decision on protein cold foam. We also debugged issues in real time. Hey, I'm having this problem here. Or, hey, like, here's how I'm phrasing this question, and here's what I want to get out of the data, but I don't, like, something's missing. I know that it could be better. Like, help me think through this. So really, really awesome content in those live coaching sessions and AMAs. We also, again, worked through things that I think no other course can offer. Sounds a little vain that I'm saying these things, but I just haven't seen it yet. And that's what I set out to build, is something that's different. So like I mentioned, we taught how to push back on stakeholders kindly, right? There's also a point where you have to meet in the middle, or you have to trade off on some of the statistical rigor to meet timelines and budgets and expectations. So you just figure out how to lay the land of, okay, here's the gold standard. Here's the sort of assumptions that we have to work with. And then here's what we're going to get. And then let's all agree that we won't be able to do these things, but we will be able to do these things. And then when you and your stakeholders are aligned, you're much more set up for success. We've got a lot of like unclear problems. Is this the business problem, or is that the business problem? Do I solve it with prioritization? Do I solve it with optimization? How to interpret results under pressure. I've got a client who keeps coming back to me with running thousands and thousands of simulations for them. What can I do? Because it doesn't seem like they want to open the simulator themselves. And so we talked about, can you run exhaustive searches? Can you make some holistic recommendations, right? Or can you teach them how to fish and get them to start doing simulations on their own, or build something where you could submit it, etc. So lots of collaboration, lots of brainstorming, and you also have a community of peers. And these peers are probably going to be outside of your organization. And I think that that's like a force multiplier. I remember one AMA where folks were sharing, oh, here's what I do versus, oh, here's what we do. And then you can blend the best of both worlds, right? Understand like, oh, that's something from that organization that I want to take versus, oh, we've never reported on sensitivities like that. That's like a really cool idea. Also, hearing someone else's struggle actually can make things click faster for you, right? Because then you can think, oh, I remember when I had that same sort of issue. And so you can kind of, one, connect over that, but then also hear me walk you through how to solve for that. And then hopefully, if that issue ever comes up again, you can revisit. And then, like I mentioned, we have folks from B2B, B2C, MR to end client, startup to Fortune 500, you name it. And so there's a lot of cross pollination across many, many different industries, types of students from academic to very senior to slightly junior, etc. So all of that being said, hopefully that has given you some excitement around what the live coaching sessions might look like. I love the Numerious way, and I hope that all of you who are still watching and plan to join us. So join by this weekend, 48 hours, that's all you got, and get 22% off the mastery tier with the code CURIOUS22. All right, with that, I will let everybody go. Thanks so much for joining, and